Hi class, I'm sorry I couldn't be there tonight, so I'm doing my presentation on George Kelly via YouTube, and I've got Pug here helping me. Anyway, George Alexander Kelly. George Alexander Kelly, the noted psychologist, was born in 1905 in Perth, Kansas. And he went to school for a very long time. He actually got his bachelor's in physics and mathematics, so he was really, really smart, from Park College and Friends University, which I've never heard of. But then he also got his master's in sociology from the University of Kansas, and he actually minored in labor relations, which is sort of the forefront and the beginning of industrial and organizational psychology, which I thought was pretty neat. He then got an exchange scholarship to the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, and he actually got his bachelor's of education there. And then he came back to America, and he got a master's and a PhD in psychology from the University of Iowa. So before World War II, he worked in school psychology, and he actually was really interested in reading and speech disabilities in children, and he was interested in clinical diagnosis. However, the events leading up to World War II kind of made him believe that the psychoanalytical approach to personality wasn't working, that people were more influenced by natural disasters and the world around them than what he called the libidinal forces, meaning our libido. So he was kind of taking a jab at Freud. And then during World War II, he worked as an aviation psychologist, and he actually was really instrumental in training most of the domestic civilian pilots during World War II. And then after World War II, he was appointed the professor and the director of clinical psychology at Ohio State University. And he worked there for 20 years, and he actually made it one of the best clinical psychology programs in the entire country. And it churned out a lot of great psychologists. While he was at the university, at Ohio State University, that is when he published and developed The Psychology of Personal Constructs, and that came out in 1955. Now, Kelly thought that many personality theories were difficult to test and really hard to define, thinking that many psychologists or observers would contribute aspects of their personality more to a diagnosis than to a patient, meaning that a Freudian analyst would give you your personality in Freudian terms. A Jungian psychologist would give you your personality in Jungian terms. And then a behavioral analyst would give you terms of conditioning. So basically, he thought that a therapist could never be totally objective in analyzing a person's world. So an effective therapist, however, could construe a patient's material at a high level of abstraction within the patient's personality construction. And then the therapist will come up with ways to change their maladaptive behavior. But anyway, the personal construct theory was published in 1955. It was an immediate and an international success, and it made him very famous. And it made him get appointments in universities in the US, Europe, Soviet Union, Asia, Caribbean, and South America. And it also was then he was elected to the president of the clinical and consulting divisions of the American Psychology Association. And then he also served as the president of the American Board of Examiners in Professional Psychology. Very fancy. And then, however, in 1967, he passed away at age 61 after teaching behavioral science at Brandeis University for a number of years. So, personal construct theory. Personal construct theory, what he developed, basically involves constructs. Now, constructs are the way that we see the world. It's our perceptions. And Kelly's therapeutic approach and technique was called the repertory grid interview. That is when patients discovered their own constructs without interpretation or intervention of therapists. Sort of like, instead of a therapist suggesting how we may feel, we're able to figure out how we feel and how we approach things. Each person's task to understanding their personal psychology is to put in order the facts about our own experiences. That's what Kelly believed. Then we're able to test the accuracy of our constructed knowledge by applying it to actions that the construct suggests. for instance, I am rude to children, and when I steal a child's candy, that's proof I'm rude to children. I don't really do that. So if those actions are in line to our personal constructs, then according to Kelly, we did good, but if not, we're able to modify those. So Kelly was a very big believer in we're always able to modify ourselves. Now, the main tenet of the personal construct theory is that our personal psychology is channeled on how we anticipate and predict events, because anticipation and prediction are the main drivers of our minds. And because of that, we are all natural scientists. We are always building and refining theories about people and things and ourselves so that we're able to control them better. Because when we're able to control them, we're better able to predict them. Which also leads to things like stereotypes, which are horrible, but according to Kelly, people take a lot of safety in stereotypes. Now, a construct has two extreme points, such as happy, sad, or clever, stupid. Kelly believed that our minds are filled with constructs, but at a low level of awareness. Now, he said a low level of awareness in lieu of unconscious, because he believed that these constructs were pre-verbal, meaning that their lack of label is because we developed them when we were pre-verbal, before we even learned the use of words, so when we were little bitty babies. And we characterize ourselves, or other people, or events by the set of constructs we apply to them. And then our, or another person's, or another event's, or a dog's position within the range of each construct. For instance, I am in between happy and sad. Pug thinks that mom either comes or doesn't come when I start pretending to bark, because she doesn't actually bark. Or a baby, a pre-verbal construct, is a mother will come or won't come when I cry. So constructs are applied to whatever we put our attention to, and they basically influence what we put our attention to as well. And we perceive our reality by constructing constructs. That is how we get through our day, how we live in our world, is by making constructs, making points to put things into. And understanding a person's system of constructs goes a long way into understanding them. So, yeah, I think that's all I got on the life of George Kelly and the personal construct theory. So, bye.
Say bye.